Good, good evening, everyone. Thank you and welcome. Thank you for your attendance, I was going to say, and welcome to this August meeting of the Barossa Assessment Panel. Take the opportunity to welcome members and staff and those who have joined us online this evening. I will just start by doing some introductions for members of the panel. So those members you have before you have Mr. Tony Hearn, Mr. Graham Burns, Ms. Rachel Nucky, Sarah Elding. My name's Jeff Parsons. I'm the presiding member. We are ably assisted by a number of members of council staff with us. We have Aaron, our assessment manager, Chris, who's helping us with governance and minutes, Jake, our Director of Development Environmental Services, and Tom, one of our senior planners, and some other council staff who have joined us this evening. So welcome to you all. In terms of the administrative items on our agenda, all members are present. There are no apologies. The confirmation of the minutes. The last meeting was held on the 1st of July. Members have received a copy of those minutes. Any questions in relation to the minutes? No? Are someone prepared to move they be adopted, please? Rachel, thank you. Is there a seconder? Second, Sarah, thank you. All those in favour? It's carried. There was no business arising from the minutes. Is there any declaration of interest that any member has in respect of the items before us this evening? All right, members, that does take us to our assessment item for consideration this evening. An application by Treasury Wine Estates Vintners, installation and operation of 4 frost fans. Was in the rural zone, performance assessed and notified. And Tom, you're the assessing officer. Is there anything you'd like to say as an introduction to the item?
Yeah, thank you. Yep, the applications for four frost fans. Key considerations were obviously noise and the visual impacts resulting. The applicant has proposed an amended laydown design for one of the fans that is close to a heritage building. We have requested some structural plans to go with that. They have provided that prior to the meeting, but post the agenda going out, so we have cited that at this stage. And the representative has read the agenda and has decided not to attend tonight.
Thanks, Tom. And I should have said before, I'm getting used to seeing Tony's face. Tony's here as our deputy. We do have an apology from Jane, which we'll obviously note in a minute. So it's right. I was lulled by the shaving. Yeah. So, members, as we just heard, the representative's not with us, but we do have the applicant online. So if we have any questions we'd like to ask the applicant, then we can do that. If members... So perhaps I'll start there. Do members have any questions that they'd like to pose to the applicant? Yeah, Graham. So Ian, I think you can hear us and we can see you on the screen there, and you will make sure you are unmuted so we can hear you. So I'll just pass to Graham to pose his question.
Thanks, Jeff. My query, and it was going to go to Tom, but I'll ask you since you're before us now. This tilt down wind fan. Are there any others like that in the Barossa Valley that are used by Treasury?
No, it'll be the first one we actually install in Australia. We've got them installed. We designed them primarily for the Bordeaux region in France for visual amenity. Since then, we've sold about 15 of them into New Zealand, generally on blueberries that are irrigated by a central pivot, so they need to lay down to allow irrigation. But yeah, this will be the first one we actually install in Australia.
And as a follow-up to that question, they're relatively straightforward in their design. I see it's a pivot arrangement at the bottom there, but how are they mechanically hoisted and dropped down again? Is that done by machine or by hand? Is it a fairly straightforward process?
It's a very straightforward process. It's not a particularly quick process because we need to uncouple the central drive line. We then use a porta pack power system, which is just like a bit of a battery, petrol-powered pump that adjusts the hydraulic fluid in the ram. It takes about 2.5 minutes to lower it. So it sort of pivots at about the 1200 millimetre point from the ground, and then lays flat down into the vineyard. So the actual tower design, other than some some extra strengthening, is essentially the same towers, the same engines, the same fans, same gearbox systems. It's just got that central ram and pivot system in the middle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Any further questions, members? No? In that case, thank you, Ian. You're welcome to stay online there and observe the rest of the proceedings. Members, do you have any questions you'd like to pose to the staff? Yes, Tony.
Maybe one thing, I noticed that at some of the decibels, as it get up to the 55 very close, is that a guesstimate, or are we saying, oh, it's 58, but that's okay? How did they, I'd like to find out how you came to that conclusion that it was spot on 55.
That's provided by the acoustic consultant for the applicant in relation to the application. So typically they do noise modelling. They've claimed and they've done some testing in the past to say that their approach to the testing has proven to be accurate. I guess based on the information that we've been provided, there's no reason to believe that it isn't achieving that 55 decibel. Achieving up to that decibel is still considered to be, generally appropriate. I thought there might have been a section that talks about, sorry, just 1 second. I just thought there was a bit of wording around that, but I think it might have been, Appendix A of the acoustic report. So that's page 72 of the agenda. Just kind of is a bit of a brief summary of some testing they've done in the past and saying that their predicted levels are generally on the slightly more conservative side, but that probably means it's just relatively accurate. Do we do testing? Yeah. No. Typically, it would be the case of council doesn't have staff to go out there during the hours of frost, which is mid 2 to 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, and we haven't got the capacity to be able to test those levels from individual private properties. We do rely on an enforcement path and the conditions of approval for these frost fans to kind of address those concerns as they come up.
Yeah, through the chair, I might just add to that, and as Tom alluded to, the recommended condition within the planning consent is that the development shall comply with the provisions of the commercial industrial EPA noise policy, which does provide that, assurance that if the predicted noise levels are way off the mark, or even if they're slightly out, that ultimately there's an obligation for the frost fan to meet those noise levels. So in the event that there were a complaint, that they could be, further, assessed. Our experience has tended to be that certainly my time here, that there has been very limited complaints. From also previous application that I believe the former panel had considered, was that the applicant, Aussie Frost fans, were talking about going to do some further assessment of the performance of the frost fans, because this report is obviously takes into consideration the assessment of a previous frost fan in New Zealand, but it's then modelled what the performance would be in this particular location, as it has done by this same acoustic consultancy in a number of other applications in the Barossa. But to date, I haven't seen any, performance assessment of an actual constructed frost fan. So it would certainly be beneficial, I think, for us as staff and for the panel to see that. So if that were to happen in the future, would be beneficial, I would imagine. And the applicant may be able to provide further perspective on that.
Thanks. Further? Yeah, I'm happy, Ian, if you want to comment, given what Aaron's had to say.
Yep, so generally the ecoacoustic report does err on the side of caution. So generally their recorded results are generally higher than what the actual results are. We actually did modelling, was it last year or the year before, out at Ribkeys down on Belvedere Road because often we get a lot of comments regarding the acoustic testing in New Zealand. Despite the fact that noise doesn't change depending on what country you're in, we took it upon ourselves to do some testing in the Barossa, and that was done at the Ribkeys property on Belvedere Road using a C59 and C49 to confirm the accuracy of the ecoacoustic model.
No, thank you. Any further questions, members, for the staff? No. Oh, yes, Graham. Yeah.
So I should have asked it before. Thanks, Jeff. Look, I must say and this is now the application. That is the tilt down and up fan is part of the application. So it's been agreed to. But I'm somewhat curious that it is necessary even to have the fan tilting down so it can't impact on the view of the Chateau Dorian winery building. The western facade of that building is very plain, just a plain ironclad building with a tilt hip roof, with vines in the front. Of course, there's no leaves on the vines at the moment, but nevertheless, there are two wind farms in the distance viewed from Seppeltsfield Road that you can see, and they're referred to in the application. I'm just not at all convinced about the need to have this fan tilt down. And as I said at the start of this of my delivery here, the decision for whatever reason has been made that there be a tilt fan. So I'll be very pleased to see what it looks like when it's installed. And I'm sure it will be successful, but I just do question the need for it to be tilted down to reduce the impact on a building that I think its principal impact is from Barossa Valley Road, not from Seppeltsfield Road or from the rear. But that said, it is what it is. It's part of the application. We've got to live with it, I guess. Thank you.
I think just to provide a bit more, I guess, context, and this is again further to Tom's sort of commentary, is that with the feedback that we received from our heritage advisor, Sam Hosking, he expressed some concern about the visual impact as is explained in the report in relation to that elevation and that perspective from the road to the south, to the north, sorry. And I guess on that basis, we put that feedback to the applicant for their consideration, and the applicant has given that due consideration and has put forward this proposal. And I think as staff, we're coming at it from point of view of we think it is a better outcome than as originally presented. But I guess if the panel felt strongly that it wasn't needed, it could raise it further with the applicant. I would imagine that ultimately it's, I guess it's in your hands. This is what the applicant has put forward as their, I guess, a solution to the concerns raised by the heritage advisor, which obviously need to be given due weight as a experienced heritage consultant. And I guess I just flag it's up to the panel ultimately to determine that. And if it is deemed that it's not needed, then the applicant, I imagine, would be accepting of that and would advise accordingly.
Thanks for that, Aaron. That helps. It might well be, though, that we just deal with the application as it is now, and if we're inclined to go this way, approve it, and then it's for the applicant themselves to come back with a fresh application or a variation to seek approval for this to be installed. So there's various ways of dealing with it. I don't want to see the thing held up today, but I just raised the question as to why it was even deemed to be necessary. And I get what you've said, and I understand that as well. From your heritage advisor's point of view, you can't lightly dismiss what your advisor is saying to you, but I just think, having seen it for myself, I'm not convinced that it's necessary. So, but I don't want to see the application held up because of my view in that regard. I think there are alternative ways of dealing with it.
I can move to the debate if you'd like to make some points, or if you've got a question, we can.
I was just wondering. Sorry.
Sure.
And I saw you look at me and nod, and I thought, well, there you go. Yeah, I agree with the comments that are made. I was very surprised. I mean, there are other frost fans in that area, and so if you were taking a photograph, you'd do it from Barossa Valley Way. It's got all the palm trees and everything else on this side of the building, but looking for, and it is, I think Graham made the point earlier, that it is part of the wine industry as such, fans are. So when do they not become part of the industry? If there was a grape harvester parked near the building, would you say you've got to move that simply because it's a grape harvester? But these fans or frost fans don't seem to worry me at all. They're just part of it. And you look out on Ebenezer Road, which the applicant said that doing the testing, there's probably 60 odd fans out there. So to me, as a person that lives here all my life, or most of it, other than the 7 years, it seems rather odd that they're going to extra expense just to appease a visual outcome, which I think is not necessary. So I would say that if there was any way of adjusting, if it didn't affect it, as Graham said, the outcome of the meeting today, I would say that it's not necessary.
Well, thank you. Shall we? It sounds as if we have exhausted our questions, so shall we head into what our views are on this matter? Do you want to continue, Tony, since you've already started? Do you have anything else you'd like to add, or no? What about other members? What are your views on this one, Sarah?
Look, I did have some concerns about Frost Fan C, which is the one we're discussing, in terms of both its proximity to sensitive receivers, but also to the view to the chateau, and I'm actually in support of the laydown. I think that's probably the future of frost fans coming forward. We're going to see a lot more of that product in Australia. They have been using it overseas for quite some time. So I think it's a good outcome, and for that view and that elevation to have the laydown available, and also supportive of the condition where it gives that element of the assessment manager to be able to amend the dates, I guess, of when that frost fan's in use as well.
Thanks, Sarah. Rachel?
Believe it or not, I don't have much more to add. I mirror probably Sarah's commentary. I tend to quite like the adoption of the laydown fan for the reasons Sarah kind of said. Like, I'm neither here nor there, really. The only question I did have was condition 3, and we've had this on other applications, that annual report that gets received by the council, to the relevant authority on request. What mechanism do you have in place to follow these up? Because obviously there'd be a series of applications that you have this condition on. How do you manage that? Because I'm very much about, if you're going to put a condition on, you should be following it up, otherwise don't put it on. So can I just, understand what you guys do?
Yeah, should have waited. The condition is more of a precautionary, a record-keeping type approach for the vineyard operator to maintain a register of those aspects within the condition, so that if there were issues to arise through the operation of the fan, then that could be relied upon to say, well, it doesn't need to be provided every year, but if they had that information to provide to us, should we request it, is kind of that type of frame of mind.
Yeah, it does say on request. So I guess my question then following on is, have you ever had to request them?
I think through the chair, I can't recall having needed to, because as I mentioned before, we've had few complaints relating to frost fans. I guess, as Tom said, that if there was a complaint, the ability to have that information available is beneficial. So, in answer to your question, I can't recall any occasion where we've had to request that information, but I also believe that if we had to request, having that information available and being able to evidence when the machine was operating would be highly beneficial. There's also been, I guess, an approach from this panel and council generally to apply that condition. So I guess there's a consistency of and a benefit of having that consistent approach more broadly. So, thanks.
Thank you. That just gives me a really good understanding, because obviously not having been on the panel before, I just wanted to know, like, has it been used? And I understand the mechanism. It's a condition to manage it. So thank you for that explanation.
Thank you. Graham, did you have anything further you wanted to add?
No.
Well, and I have similar views, members. I thought the land use was appropriate, obviously, and with respect to visual impact, I probably thought the fold-down fan was a reasonable approach, I guess, to address the heritage concerns. I certainly doesn't necessarily have the appearance, I guess, of a local heritage place that has a high visual amenity, but I thought it was a reasonable compromise, I guess, to protect the heritage value as far as the heritage advisor was concerned. So it sounds like we're all in reasonably similar views in terms of the merits of the proposal. So we obviously have a series of recommendations before us. Perhaps the first thing I'll do is ask whether someone's prepared to move the recommendation around the proposal not being seriously at variance with the Planning and Design Code. Yes, Tony, you're happy to move that way. Is there a seconder? Seconder, Graham, thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That's carried. And then our next recommendation is around the proposal not undermining the objects of the Character Preservation Act. Yep, Graham, you're happy to move? Thank you. And then you can keep your hand raised and I'll take Rachel as the seconder. All those in favour, please raise your hands, and that's carried. And then I guess the main component to the recommendations is around the granting of planning consent subject to the reserve matter and a number of conditions. Yeah, Graham.
Just a brief comment I'd like to make before we get into moving a motion to either adopt the recommendation or not. I wonder whether the council reserve matter regarding the demonstration of the proposed lay-down design, is that needed to be expressed as a reserve matter, or can it simply be as a condition? I don't see the need for it to be expressed and dealt with as a reserve matter, when I think we're seemingly all accepting of it being. That's what is now proposed. We heard from the applicant, they're prepared to install it that way, but do we need to see the details up front, as it were, through the reserve matter? Or can it simply be dealt with as a condition so that detail can be provided as part of the building consent process?
Yeah, I think through the chair. I mean, as mentioned by Tom earlier, the applicant has actually provided us now with essentially the structural details for the fold-down fan. So, in effect, I think the reserve matter has already been met. I think it would be required as part of the building consent anyway that they provide that detail. So, I think on balance, I would suggest it would typically be addressed through building consent rather than as a condition. So I would suggest that in this case, I think it's appropriate to leave it on, because ultimately it will be satisfied anyway. But if the panel wanted to remove it, or put it as a condition, it's obviously up to the panel. I don't think it's necessary, however.
Thanks for that, Aaron. I don't. If the details have been provided, and I do recall Tom saying that, I just don't think it's necessary to be there, but the panel might have a different view.
Well, I'm open to what you think, members. We can either strike that reserve matter out. Yeah, you have a view, Rachel?
Happy to share my view. Look, when I look at a reserve matter, what you're doing is reserving your judgment on assessing that component. Now, I suppose we've kind of already assessed the component of the laydown. We've seen that photo, haven't we? We know what it's going to look like. So we're not actually reserving a decision, if you get what I mean. So I actually don't think it's a reserve matter. I actually think, and I agree with Aaron, I think it's more building detail. But if you did want to put it as a condition, just saying final details, of the elevational detail of the drop-down frost fan shall be provided by the issue of building. I personally think it's more appropriate as a condition, but that's my perspective.
And I concur with what Rachel's saying. I think that wording, expressed as a condition, is the appropriate way to deal with the matter. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I just don't feel comfortable about it being dealt with as a reserve matter, given that we've got all of the details now. It just seems to be an unnecessary step in the process. Sorry, I guess my view is that with a condition so worded to replace the reserve matter wording as a condition, I'd be happy to move in accordance with the conditions, the recommendation 3 and conditions in front of us.
Can Chris put it up on the board?
And I think just further to that, I think it just keep it really simple, that really all you're after are the elevations. And look, it's like what you said, you're going to get them at building anyway, because you have to have that design. So it's just really a little bit of a makeshift for comfort for us.
Tom, yeah.
Sorry, I just thought I'd add, yeah, the reserve matter was purely just to bring things consistently together. I guess the plans wasn't 100% sure if the structural design was the exact same. Substantially it is from what we've been told today and what we've seen. So, yeah, I don't see any issue with whatever you decide.
And I saw a majority of members nodding, I think, with the points that were being made. And I know Aaron's just put draft condition 10 on the screen. Sorry to those of you that have to turn around, but I think that's captured the essence of what we're saying. But I'll just give members a moment to read that. Yeah. Excellent. So, and Graham, you were happy to move that, weren't you? Yes. Yes, which is, and Tony, you're happy to second? All right, excellent. So I'll put that, members. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And it's carried unanimously. So for the benefit of those who have attended online, the application has been granted. Planning consent, building consent, development approval will still be necessary, as will adherence to all of those conditions. If you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to contact the staff the next business day. They'll be happy to assist you. And you're also more than welcome to either leave us now or stay with us. So thank you. Members, we have a couple of other administrative items we need to get to. There was nothing under items 7 or 8 on our agenda, so that takes us to item 9, which is item 9.1, which is the delegations. Aaron, is there anything you'd like to take us through, please?
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Well, this is just off the back of the previous information report that we provided in relation to delegations, and this is a recommendation that the delegations be amended to remove the clause explicitly in relation to frost fans, so that essentially it provides discretion, which is a sensible solution, I think, and a position to take, given the experience that the panel has had over the past 2 or 3 years, that, look, sometimes these are subject of representation like the one tonight, where there's a request to be heard and they will still continue to come to the panel. But in relation to those cases where there are no representations, it may be appropriate for the application to be dealt with by the assessment manager under delegation of the panel. So I think through experience, it's good practice for the panel to continually review how things are working, and if there's improvements that can be made to improve efficiency and better operations, then that's good practice. So I put it to the panel to decide upon this one, but on balance, I think it's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Any questions or points, members? Yeah, Rachel.
I just have a really quick one. Number 4, and this may never have happened to you, but say you had a frost fan, it had a rep, but you got a deemed consent. What would you do then?
Yeah, I think you don't want to get into that position where I've fortunately never had that, and I guess we spend a lot of time seeking to get the public notification process finished and the response to reps done in time so that we can get an application to the panel. But if we had to, we would have to apply to quash that decision, I think, or essentially we would have to deal with that process, which creates a real tension there, doesn't it? Because then you have reps that haven't been given the opportunity to be heard, and yet you've already received a deemed consent. So I think it's just not somewhere you want to be. So we'll do what we can to avoid that.
Just thought I'd ask because
Yeah.
you never know. And would you consider, given that you've got 10 days, I think it is, isn't it, from when you receive the deemed consent, would you call a special meeting?
Yeah, I think I'd be talking in the first instance with Jeff as a presiding member as to, look, what do we do here? A special meeting is a possibility, but if necessary, I would, depending on the type of development and what the risks were, and whether it was just highly in conflict with the code, it might be a case where the matter needs to be appealed to, essentially applied to be quashed, basically. But yeah, it hasn't come up in other discussions with other councils, but it's an interesting question.
Reason I ask is because it's happened to us. Not with Frost fans, but yeah. Yes, it has, and we called a special meeting. So basically, because we knew we had the 10-day window, we just thought, well, we're going to call like an urgent meeting, get it decided, and get it off our plate. Because the quashing, that process, like you said, it is a disaster. Like having done that before when I was at West Torrens, oh my gosh, not good. And then you get mixed up in the merits versus like the fact that you didn't approve it. So it ends up being a two-pronged appeal. It's messy and costly and
All right, members, any other comments in respect to the delegations? No? In that case...
Sorry,
Yes, yeah.
And I'm looking at page 115 of the agenda. We're looking at that part of the policy that says a representative, no representative who has lodged a valid representation wishes to be heard, really just goes to the previous application we've dealt with, where a representative made a submission validly and wished to be heard, and that's why we were having this meeting. But the representative, I guess at the 11th hour, withdrew. So it's happened more than once too. So yeah, it does, I know, which is somewhat unfortunate, but anyway, it is what it is.
What did you... I think I've seen some other councils have wording in their panels that suggests that if the request to be heard is withdrawn prior to the publication of the agenda, then the matter can be determined under delegation. But if the agenda is published, then essentially it's too late, which I think is probably a reasonable approach. I don't know if you need additional wording for that or if that's how you manage it anyway, but it does happen often. Yeah. If there are no other comments, someone prepared to move the recommendation, and that is that the updated delegations essentially be adopted.
Yep, I'll do that.
Rachel, thank you. Thanks, Graham. Appreciate that. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's carried unanimously. So, thank you, members. Those new updated delegations are adopted. Item 9.2, the quarterly report. Aaron, do you wish to say anything?
Yeah,
about
nothing
this one?
really to report. This is just the ongoing quarterly report that we provide to the panel for their information, and it really giving an update of the decision making made by the essentially by development services, but in particular the relevant authorities. So either between assessment manager or as a delegate for the panel, other than those applications that are actually deemed or assessed by the panel. So yeah, if you have any questions, welcome any feedback, but we'll continue to provide this report every 3 months.
Thank you. I think this report's really good. Many of the other panels I'm on don't provide anything like this, and I think it's really good, good governance from the council. So, members, any questions? Or if not, is someone prepared to move that the report be received? Graham, you're moving. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Sarah. Thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you to the staff for providing that report. Like I said, I think that's very good. Now, we're still in the other business section. Does any member have any item of other business they'd like to raise? No? Any item of other business from the staff, Aaron? No. There are no confidential reports, and the next meeting is due to be held on the 2nd of September at 5 p.m. So,
Before we
yes.
leave from that, the 2nd of September, that'll be fine for me, but I suspect the October meeting won't be because I'll be in.
You're looking for someone to carry your bag?
No, I'm just.
Bring some back
But
with
I'm not sure.
Yes,
The first Tuesday of October, not September.
Yep.
I might be an apology, but I'm just thinking of advance warning of that for all members.
Sure. Well, in November I'll be in the USA, so we're close but not quite. So I'll be missing that one. But yes. But it sounds like our paths won't quite cross. So yes, one of us will be available for each meeting. All right. Thank you, members. Happy to declare the meeting closed at 5:38 p.m. Thank you very much for your attendance and your contribution. Thanks to the staff for your support. Really appreciate it.